Hands up if you were already aware that man has created the very first time machine. Actually, you know what? I can't see your hands. Better yet, like this video if you were aware that there is a time machine. Now, the other night, my buddy and I, we did drunken science, sort of. We had a few beers, like literally 2 or 3 beers, and we started talking about everything from like the physical compounds that our reality is made up of, from to time travel, to a time machine, to if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? And you guys think about that one right there. I want your answers before the end of this video. So post it before the end. I really want to know what you guys think about this. Now this is our drunken science. This is what we made. It may not look like a whole lot. It kind of looks like absolute gibberish and scribbles. But I mean, that's what happens when you get an intoxicated guy talking science. You get scribbles. So pretty much everything we know about the world may or may not be correct. Crazy enough, everything. The way I see it, everything exists and everything doesn't exist. Now basically the universe is the way it is simply because there's a conscious being observing it. Crazy. So, if I am not in my bedroom, and there's nobody around my bedroom or in my bedroom ceases to exist. It may or may not be the same as it is when I'm in there. It may be completely different, it may be totally differently rearranged, it might not simply be in existence whatsoever. It may cease to exist because me, the conscious observer, am no longer there. So there's basically this experiment that was done years ago, I think. I think it was the 2-slot experiment, where they fired like tiny particles into 2 slots, and they had 2 lines up here. And then they fired it through 1 slot, and they had 1 line up here, which is kind of what they figured, right? And then later, they did the experiment, and they fired particles through these 2 slots, and they got a pattern, a wave-like pattern. And they fired it through the 1 slot and they got just the 1. And they were like, what is up with this? So they decided to record it. They put a camera there to film it. And it turns out when the camera was filming it, these particles acted differently. They did the 1 slot. Or they just formed the 2 lines instead of the wave pattern. So this was showing us that pretty much everything acts differently when it's being watched. So atoms, take atoms for example, they're not just like a tiny little speck like we would be led to believe. They're actually all over the place, spread out, unless they're being consciously observed. Like my cell phone. My cell phone, all of the atoms in my cell phone are tightly compressed to form this hard physical object. Now, if I'm not in the room, if I'm not around my cell phone, I don't know what it does. Nobody ever really will, I don't think. But the atoms are different. They're acting different. My cell phone could be different. It may not even cease to exist. Odd. There's one movie, I can't remember, where the guy, he asked this question. He's like, if I just turn my head, does everything that's simply out of my vision stop, like freeze? And it no longer is in existence until I choose to look at it again and reanimate everything. It's a very interesting question, and it turns out that just may so very well be the case. When you're looking away, atoms act differently, everything is different. Conscious observers make the universe the way it is. So I guess we'll never really know, or at least for now for a while, what is actually going on until we can figure out a way to observe it without knowing it's being observed. Craziness. No, time machine. There is a time machine. It was made, interestingly enough, by a black professor. It's not me being racist, but it was made. I can't find a whole lot on this, because for some reason or other, you'd think, like, world's first time machine, it would be a huge deal. Not so much. So he made this machine that used light, centrifugal force, and one other thing to pretty much send tiny particles back in time. And so how they figured this out is, when they started the machine, the very first experiment was, they're like, okay, we started the machine. And then next thing you know, a particle appears at the other end, and the scientists are like, we've created the world's first time machine, and all the media is like, what? What just happened? The scientist explains, well, we never actually sent a particle through, but we had the full intention of doing so, and because of that intention, we received a particle. And so they can't send anything, or they can't send a particle back in time before the machine. So basically, the world's first time machine is from the beginning of when it was created to however long, but they can't go back from past the beginning. So they're going to try and using magnets to create a positive and negative so that they can send back like Morse code, 1s and 0s. They pretty much relay all information back. Now that would be extremely useful, but there's like upsides and downsides of this. Like one, if somebody got a hold of this time machine and could manage to send back information years in the past, send back years, and change the way everything is, they could become the most powerful people on the planet. Right? You have a country that suddenly is like, oh, this is what we did, that was a mistake, we send back this information, we do it differently. Rinse and repeat until we are the rulers of the world. That's slightly scary. On the bright side, create a huge disaster or a massive flu breaks out or something, and then they're like, good God, we've created a pandemic, we've got to fix this, send back all the information we know so that they can prevent this from happening. So it's actually fucking fantastically awesome. Also slightly scary. Time travel. You cannot travel back in time and kill your grandfather, because if you kill your grandfather, you would cease to exist, so therefore, who killed your grandfather? It's impossible. It's called a paradox. Paradoxes, pretty much, they don't exist. So, they believe using alternate dimensions that if you travel back in time, when you kill your grandfather, it's not actually your grandfather, it's your alternate dimension's grandfather. So you can kill your grandfather, and then the alternate dimension you will cease to exist, but you will still exist because you're simply in another dimension. It's crazy, drunken science. I love it. It was fun. All kinds of nuttiness that we learned. So, as for the question, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? What do you guys think? I almost don't even want to tell you. I just want to hear what you guys think. I mean, I think this is one of those things where there could be different answers depending on how much knowledge you'd have of the particular subject. I'll let you think on that for a moment here, if you haven't already answered. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Okay, I'll tell you. There is no tree. Is that really even a surprise? The tree falls in the forest, doesn't make a sound. No, there is no tree. When I first thought about it, I said, sound. Well, I would say no, because sound is something that's created by humans. If a tree falls, doesn't make a sound, no, because sound is words. We've added a word before we come up with the situation. You could say there is no sound. The tree fell, but there was no sound, but you just skip out that whole thing and just think there is no tree. Interesting. What do you guys think about it?